My name is Kaia Mercer, 23 years old. The house was too quiet for Christmas Eve. The kind of quiet that hums, that presses against your eardrums until you start to hear your own heartbeat. I opened my eyes to the ceiling light bleeding faintly through the hallway crack. It shouldn't have been on. It hadn't been on when I went to bed. I sat up listening. No footsteps, no voices, just the refrigerator humming downstairs. I thought maybe they'd gone out to grab something, last-minute groceries or snacks for the drive. We were supposed to leave that afternoon for the big family trip, 5 hours to a winter resort. Matching pajamas, cousins, fireplaces, the usual chaos. But the silence did not fit, not when it was already 9:42 a.m. I should have heard Mom reminding someone to pack sweaters, or my sister yelling about her hair straightener. Instead, the sink held one plate, mine. No coats by the door, no keys on the hook, no cars in the driveway. I called Mom. Her name wasn't in my contacts. At first, I thought I'd scrolled past it, so I typed Mom. Nothing. Tried Dad. Nothing. My sister, brothers, uncle, gone. Every family number erased, as if I'd never had one. The rest of my phone was untouched. Messages from coworkers still there. Bank app fine. Social media fine. Just no family. My stomach twisted. I remembered last night, my youngest brother asking to borrow my phone to check the forecast. He'd laughed about the snow, handed it back, said goodnight. Now I knew why. I tried punching in Mom's number from memory. A man answered. Definitely not my mother. He said, "Wrong number," and hung up. That's when disbelief started to settle like ice water in my chest. I called the only number I knew by heart, my Uncle Ray's. Old school, never changes anything. He picked up out of breath. "Kaia, where are you?" "In the kitchen," I said. "At home." A pause. Then faint background noise. Laughter, music, tires crunching on snow. Someone saying, "Wait, is that her?" My uncle cleared his throat. "Oh, they left early this morning. Changed the plan last minute. Thought it'd be funny. You know how your brother is." "Funny," I repeated. More laughter filtered through the line. My cousin's voice called out, "Tell her we said hi. Wait, she seriously didn't know?" My uncle coughed again. "Anyway, you can still come up. Rooms are paid for. They left your pass at check-in. Just drive up when you're ready." I looked at the grocery list that's still pinned to the fridge in my handwriting. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Thanks for letting me know." I hung up. People say betrayal hits like a punch. For me, it was slower. Like slipping under a frozen lake, realizing no one was coming to pull me out. It wasn't the first time. They'd always had a sense of humor. Switching out candles on my birthday cake for hot sauce ones, hiding my clothes before school, convincing me my car had been towed when it hadn't. I was the one who could take a joke. Apparently that meant I didn't get to be mad when it stopped being funny. But this was new. They'd left me. I went upstairs. The suitcase by my door sat zipped and ready. I'd packed it days ago. Snacks for the drive, sweaters, the Christmas gift I'd bought for each of them. I stared at it for a long minute. Then I walked past it, opened the closet, and pulled out a different bag. The one with documents, pay stubs, warranties, stuff I kept just in case. I didn't cry. Didn't even feel angry yet. What I felt was finished. Downstairs, the fridge hummed steadily, a sound that had followed me for years. I'd bought it 2 years ago with my bonus after the old one broke. No one else chipped in, but everyone used it. Same with the washer, the couch, the microwave, the Wi-Fi. My paycheck kept the lights on. They never said thank you. So I made a list. Fridge, mine. Washer and dryer, mine. Couch, microwave, router, mine. Utilities, under my name. I worked in silence. Pulled plugs, rolled cords, wrapped tape around doors to keep them from scraping. The air felt too calm for what I was doing. No rage, just precision. By noon, half the living room was empty. I loaded the last box into my old car, the one they'd mocked me for keeping because it looked like a lunchbox on wheels. Then I took one slow walk through the house. It was still. The framed photos on the mantel stared back. Family smiles, Christmas mornings, all those moments that looked better frozen than they'd ever been to live through. I set the key inside the mailbox, closed it carefully, and locked the door one final time. The road was bright and clean. Snow melted off the asphalt as the sun climbed. I drove to my best friend's apartment across town, a second bedroom she barely used. It smelled faintly of lavender detergent. She opened the door, blinking. "Kaia, you okay?" "I just need a place for a few days," I said. She nodded, no questions asked. That's the thing about real friends. They don't need the whole story to offer you a blanket and a bowl of soup. That night, I sat on the futon, phone face down beside me. 52 missed calls, most from Mom, a few from my sister, even 2 from my older brother, which was new. I didn't answer any of them. One message stood out. You've gone too far. Come home and fix this. I almost laughed. Too far. For the first time in years, I didn't owe anyone an explanation. I sipped the soup, cold by now, and stared at the folder on the floor, the one I'd packed with proof of every bill, every purchase. Receipts lined up like a quiet defense. I'd kept them out of habit, but now they looked like freedom. I leaned back, blanket around my shoulders, and let the silence breathe. No one yelling my name, no footsteps overhead, no, Kaia, can you cover the Wi-Fi this month? Just quiet. It wasn't peace yet, but it was close. 5 days later, they'd come home and start screaming. I already knew that part. But tonight, I just watched the city lights blink through the curtain, my reflection faint in the window. The phone buzzed again, an unknown number flashing once, twice, then disappearing. I didn't open it, not yet, because deep down I knew this wasn't the end. It was the first page of something else. The knock came 2 days after Christmas, late morning, a polite tap that didn't belong to my family. I'd been reorganizing the folder, warranties on the left, utilities in the center, bank statements tabbed by month, because order calmed my hands when my mind wouldn't stop skidding. My friend was at work. The apartment was quiet except for traffic and a neighbor's radio. Ms. Mercer, a voice called through the door. It's Officer Delaney. May I speak with you? I pulled the chain, opening the door a few inches. Middle-aged, wind-chapped face, a softness around the eyes that said this wasn't his first awkward wellness check. He held his palms out like he was asking a skittish cat to trust him. Your family reported you missing, he said. They also mentioned possible theft. I exhaled once, long and even, then let him in. The kitchen table was small but bright. I set the folder down the way you place a chess piece you know can't be captured. I'm not missing, I said. I left. He sat. I opened the folder and slid pages across the laminate one by one. Receipt for the fridge, dated 2 Decembers ago, my name in block letters, with a smudge at the bottom where the store clerk's pen had hiccuped. Washer and dryer invoice, serial numbers circled. Bank statements showing auto pay for Wi-Fi, electric, water. Contracts in my name with start dates and account numbers like coordinates. He took his time. His face didn't move much, but the pauses deepened. It's a funny sensation, being seen in a language that doesn't need adjectives, numbers, dates, signatures, objective sentences. You've been covering all this, he said finally. Yes. He tapped the fridge receipt lightly with a forefinger. The report used the word stolen. Another pause. Stolen is not what this looks like. I didn't say anything. He closed the folder and pushed it gently toward me, like returning a sacred object. Do you want me to let them know you're safe? Share your address? No. He nodded once. You're not obligated to. You're also not in trouble. He stood, hesitated at the door. I wish half the people I do these calls for were this organized. When the door clicked shut behind him, I leaned my forehead against the wood and let my muscles go slack for 5 seconds. Then I put the folder back on the shelf. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired. The next day, my parents came to my job. Your parents are here, the receptionist whispered into the phone. Is everything okay? I stepped into the lobby, and there they were, their winter coats too heavy for the overheated building, their eyes scanning me like a missing item they'd finally found in the wrong aisle. Mom's voice tried to be gentle as she said, Can we talk? Dad didn't bother with warm-up lines. You're seriously doing all this over a prank? He said too loud. A woman at the far table glanced over her laptop. The security guard looked up from his stool. I felt heat crawl up my neck. I said nothing. Mom reached for my sleeve and stopped when she saw my flinch. This has gone too far, Kaia. We need to fix it. You can't just run away. You left me first, I said. My voice came out soft and even, like it belonged to a version of me who'd been waiting for this line for years. Mom opened her mouth and shut it. Dad stared at me as if I'd spoken a language he didn't think I knew. He started in on responsibility and bills and maturity. I looked at the receptionist, then back at them. If you don't leave, I'll call security, I said. The seconds that followed felt like windless weather. Everything held. Then Mom blinked hard and took Dad's sleeve, and they left with that stiff, offended posture of people who think they've been generous and can't comprehend why you won't kiss their ring. The guard's eyes followed them, then flicked to me. I smiled without humor. He smiled back, the quiet solidarity of someone who's watched other families split across marble floors. That night, the apartment balcony felt colder than the air deserved. I wrapped the blanket tighter and cupped my tea. The city moved under me like a patient animal. My phone lay face down. I told myself I wouldn't check it, and then didn't. It's a discipline to let silence be silence when you've been trained to fill it. Text messages still arrived, of course. Long numbers I didn't recognize, paragraphs from Mom's church friend explaining how hard this has been on your parents. A cousin's running commentary. The couch gone. Mine. The humming of the cheap, second-hand fridge they managed to find. The power bill almost missed. Blame ricocheting down hallways like a dropped glass bottle. The logistics group chat died. My sister complained the loudest about the Wi-Fi changing hands, then borrowed our neighbor's network until it locked her out. I slept. I woke. I made eggs. I found a small routine in the wreckage, and it surprised me how quickly my body believed it. Sometimes I pressed my fingers over the old adhesive outline on my palm where the router's label had stuck when I pulled it free. A faint square of absence. A phantom bandage. On the fourth evening after the officer's visit, the building buzzer rang 3 times in a neat pattern, and my stomach did that animal lurch, the one that expects a predator on the other side of the door, even when you live on the second floor and predators don't ring. I checked the hallway camera. There they were, my older brother, my sister, my youngest brother, bunched together like a committee that couldn't decide who should speak first. My sister held a small grocery bag like a prop. Chips, a soda, a peace-offering souvenir from a gas station. I didn't buzz them in. I watched for another 30 seconds. My younger brother glanced up at the camera, made a face that might have been a smile if it weren't pinched by nerves. I went down and opened the door myself. "Hey," my sister chirped, too bright, like she was trying out for friendly neighbor number 3. We were in the area and thought, why not stop by? "You weren't supposed to know where I lived," I said. The words sounded harsher than I meant, so I added, "How did you get my address?" They traded looks and shrugged in a way that said the answer would only make me angrier. My older brother cleared his throat. We wanted to talk. I let them in because curiosity is a door you can't keep closed forever. We sat in the small living room. They offered chips. I declined. The air had the awkward sweetness of a waiting room before a bad appointment. The performance started slowly, my sister laughing about past pranks, dialing the volume down, adding, "We didn't realize how much it hurt you," like salt after a bland soup. My older brother leaned on nostalgia we never shared. "Game nights like when we were kids," he said, and I felt a click in my chest because we didn't have game nights when we were kids. That was a thing I tried once, at 15, with a second-hand board game and a bowl of popcorn I burned. They'd mocked me until I threw the game into the closet and pretended it didn't matter. "We miss you," my youngest brother said, so quietly you could almost believe it, and maybe part of him did. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I'm glad you came," I said, and watched their shoulders drop with relief before I finished. "So you can say what you actually came to say." They froze. My older brother reached for his water, and, in that unguarded motion people make when they think they're almost safe, he told the truth. "Honestly, if you moved back, it would just help stabilize things," he said. "You know, financially." There it was, the word, the spine of the whole visit. I stood. My knees didn't shake. "You need to leave." "What?" My sister blinked, full lashes fluttering like a startled bird. "Kaia, we're trying." "You're trying to put things back the way they were," I said. "I'm not." My youngest brother flinched, like the sentence hit him physically. He looked at the bookshelf, at the small cinnamon jar I'd set there because I hadn't found the spice rack yet. His face softened, and for a second he looked like a kid who used to bring me crayon drawings, like a version of himself before he borrowed my phone and pressed erase like it was a joke. His mouth opened. "I didn't think," he started, then closed it. "They won't hold it together without you." "Then they'll learn," I said. We stood in that small stalemate for a few breaths, and then they filed out, paper bag crinkling, apologies unsaid. Nobody slammed anything. They didn't call me names. They just walked down the hall in a crooked line, and I closed the door gently because drama had already taken enough from me. My hands trembled then. After, in the privacy of four walls. Not from fear. Adrenaline has its own geography. I sat and counted my breaths until the tremor passed. When I could trust my fingers, I turned my phone face up. An unknown number waited on the lock screen. No name, no call history, just a text bubble that had arrived while my siblings were still on the couch. You were right to leave. There's more you don't know. I stared at it until the words blurred. The room hummed with the building's plumbing, the radiator ticking in the corner like a lazy metronome. I typed nothing. I didn't need more mystery. But the message wasn't going to turn into anything else by ignoring it. I tapped it open and watched three dots appear, vanish, reappear. A stranger pacing on the other side of a digital door. They planned the trip change weeks ago. The next message came. The prank was cover. Check your email from December 10. Look for account delegate. A final ping. I'll send proof when I'm safe. I set the phone down carefully, as if the table might jolt and knock the truth away. Outside, a siren wandered somewhere distant, disinterested. I reached for the cinnamon jar and held it in my palm the way you hold a decision. Silence again, but not the empty kind. The kind before a fuse burns to its end. I didn't sleep that night. The message pulsed in my mind like a heartbeat I couldn't quiet. They planned it. Cover story, account delegate. By morning, the city outside was pale blue, too clean for the kind of truth I was about to touch. I brewed coffee, opened my laptop, and searched my inbox for the words account delegate. There it was, an unread email from December 10th. Subject line, utility transition confirmation. Sent by the power company, addressed to me, CC'd to a familiar family address, my mother's. The body of the message said, as requested, we've added the authorized delegate, Patricia Mercer, for joint access and payment modification. I stared at it. I hadn't requested anything. I scrolled down. The attached PDF bore my name typed neatly under a digital signature field I never signed. It was almost perfect. Same font, same tone I used on all my forms. But the timestamp at the bottom told the truth. It had been uploaded the same evening my brother borrowed my laptop to download a movie. I felt the air leave my lungs. This wasn't a prank. It was premeditated. They'd moved my accounts into my mother's control, probably thinking I'd never notice, that I'd just keep paying the bills while believing they were still mine. The trip prank was camouflage for a handover. If I'd gone with them, the house would have run on autopay through January, and I would have been too far away to contest it before the next billing cycle hit. My throat tightened, not with rage, but something colder, understanding. I opened my phone, tapped the unknown number. Who are you? I wrote. A few seconds later, Cousin Leah. Uncle Ray doesn't know I'm messaging you, she continued. But I couldn't stay quiet. They were panicking before the holidays. The mortgage was 2 months behind. Your dad said, she's paying anyway. Let's just make it official. Mom said it'd be temporary. Then the idea came up to leave early, to see if you'd notice. I felt sick. Who changed my contacts? I typed. Your younger brother. They told him it was a joke. He didn't think it'd go that far. A pause, then another message. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen until the sun slipped higher, light slicing through the blinds. There was nothing left to say. I didn't reply. That afternoon, I went for a walk. Frost still glazed the sidewalks, and the air smelled like wood smoke. Every sound felt sharper, the crunch of gravel, the low thrum of passing cars. My reflection appeared briefly in a shop window, the same coat I'd worn last Christmas, the one I'd bought myself after they forgot my gift. I thought about calling a lawyer, about pressing charges for fraud, but the idea exhausted me. I didn't want a court case. I wanted peace. And yet peace has its own price. A week later, I heard from Leah again. They're falling apart, she wrote. The house is listed for sale. Your dad's furious. Your mom's trying to hold it together, but they're fighting all the time. She sent a photo, a real estate sign planted crookedly in the yard, the same yard I used to rake every fall. I should have felt satisfaction, vindication, something. Instead, I just felt hollow, like someone had unplugged a machine that had been running too long. Then, one evening in late January, I got an email with the subject line, "Can we talk?" From my mother. It wasn't long. We'd like to meet. Neutral ground. Just dinner. No pressure. I read it 3 times. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a diner off Highway 17, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and laminated menus that smell like syrup. They were already there when I walked in. Mom waved weakly. Dad looked smaller than I remembered. shoulders hunched under a cheap jacket. No one spoke for a minute. The waitress poured coffee and left without asking. Finally, Mom said, "We made mistakes." I waited. She fidgeted with a sugar packet. "We were desperate. The bills. We didn't mean to hurt you. We just didn't know what else to do." Dad sighed, rubbing his forehead. "You walked out without warning, Kaia. You took half the house." "I took what I paid for," I said, "and I left everything else." Silence again, the kind that sits heavy and unmoving. Mom's eyes filled, but the tears didn't fall. "I just want my family back," she whispered. I looked at her and, for the first time, didn't feel anger, just a tired kind of clarity. "You can't fix what you refuse to understand," I said. She reached across the table. I didn't move away, but I didn't reach back either. We sat there until the coffee cooled, saying nothing that mattered. Eventually, I left enough cash for my drink and stood. "Take care of yourselves," I said quietly. Outside, the wind smelled like snow. I didn't look back. That night, I got another message. Not from Leah this time, but from my youngest brother. "I didn't know they forged your signature," it read. "I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Finally, I typed, "I know." Then, after a pause, "Be better than them." He read it instantly, no reply. But the typing dots appeared, disappeared, and I took that as enough. A week passed. The house sold. My parents moved into a small rental in a town 2 hours away. My sister started subletting an apartment with a friend. My older brother took a job out of state. The family, once so loud and suffocating, dissolved into silence. I filled mine with ordinary things: work, dinners with my friend, quiet evenings with movies and tea. I bought a small secondhand spice rack for the kitchen wall. The cinnamon jar sat in the middle, its label smudged but legible. Sometimes, when the light hit it just right, I caught my reflection in the glass. Calm, steady, my own. One evening, a knock came again. My heart jumped, but it wasn't them. It was the mail carrier, handing me an envelope addressed in a familiar, shaky script. Inside was a check, a refund from the bank, escrow surplus from the sale of the old house. A small amount, but enough to feel symbolic. Underneath, a note in my mother's handwriting. "We thought you should have this. You paid more than your share." For the first time in months, I smiled. I sat at my desk, turned the check over, and wrote a new note on the back. "Apply it to your first month's rent." Then I mailed it to their new address. It wasn't forgiveness, not exactly, but it was something close, a way to stop the story from hardening into bitterness. That night, I opened the balcony door. The air was crisp, moonlight pooling across the floor. I lit a single candle, the same kind they used to switch out for tricks, and watched the flame steady itself. Peace doesn't always arrive with trumpets or closure. Sometimes it's just the sound of your own breathing, unhurried. I was free, and freedom, I realized, didn't mean walking away. It meant finally knowing you didn't have to go back. 6 months passed before I drove by the old house again. Not on purpose. The GPS had rerouted me through the neighborhood, the way memories sometimes sneak in through back roads. The "for sale" sign was gone. A new family lived there now. I slowed near the curb, windows rolled down just enough to hear faint laughter spilling from the backyard. Children, probably no older than 8 or 9, chasing each other through the same patch of lawn I'd once mowed every Sunday. The porch looked different. Someone had repainted it pale blue, replaced the loose railings, planted hanging baskets overflowing with petunias. I could see the glow of a lamp through the front window, warm, steady, alive. It didn't ache like I thought it would. The house wasn't mine anymore, not in the way walls or deeds make something yours, but in a quieter way, it always would be. I parked half a block away and sat for a minute, hands still on the steering wheel. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked older, not by years, but by weight I'd finally put down. The air smelled like rain. I didn't cry. I just breathed and whispered a simple goodbye. Then I drove on. Back at my apartment, sunlight pooled through the window across the kitchen counter. The cinnamon jar caught it first. That same little jar that had followed me through every move since that night. I took it down, unscrewed the lid, and let the scent rise, soft and warm and ordinary. This was what peace smelled like. Not fireworks, not absolution, just the quiet hum of your own life continuing. The folder, my old archive of receipts, bills, and proof, still sat on the shelf. I'd thought about throwing it out a dozen times, but couldn't. One afternoon, I finally pulled it down. The papers had started curling at the edges. I flipped through each page, slower than I needed to, feeling the texture of what survival used to require. Then I closed it for good, wrote archive on the front in black ink, and slid it behind a row of novels on the bottom shelf. It could rest now. 2 days later, an email arrived from Leah. Just wanted you to know, Uncle Ray retired. Mom's doing better. No one really talks about the Christmas trip anymore. She added, I'm sorry for not speaking up sooner. I hope you're happy. I wrote back, I am. I hope you are too. That was the last time we spoke. Life, I've learned, doesn't give you one final conversation that ties everything up with a bow. Sometimes the apology never comes, or it arrives through someone else's trembling words months later. Sometimes peace isn't a handshake. It's a door you close and choose not to reopen. In February, my friend moved out, chasing a new job in another city. I kept the apartment, finally alone for the first time in my life. The spare room became my workspace. Secondhand desk, thrifted chair, printer from a clearance sale. I filled the walls with photographs I took myself, rooftops at dusk, empty roads, hands holding mugs, small proofs of being alive. Each morning, I brewed coffee, opened the balcony door, and let the air move through. The city hum replaced the old refrigerator's drone. Different pitch, same comfort. Sometimes I'd get unexpected letters, mail forwarded from my parents' old address, random subscriptions they'd never canceled. One envelope from the bank contained an escrow refund check, my name still on record. The amount wasn't much, but I recognized the account number instantly. It was from the mortgage I'd quietly paid into for years. I sat there with the check between my fingers. I could have kept it. Legally, it was partly mine. Instead, I flipped it over, wrote in the margin, use this for your first month's rent. Take care of yourselves. Then I mailed it to their new address. Not because I owed them, because I didn't want to owe the memory of them either. Later that night, as the postbox swallowed the envelope, I felt something unclench inside me. Not joy, exactly. More like the slow easing of a wound that had stopped bleeding, but hadn't known it yet. When I got home, I made tea, poured a bit of cinnamon into the cup, and stood by the window while it steeped. The city outside was alive but distant. Headlights, laughter, the endless pulse of strangers' stories. And for once, none of it demanded anything from me. Sometimes I think about what they must have felt the day they came home and found the house stripped bare. The silence, the missing hum, the weight of their own choices echoing back. Other times I don't think of them at all. Both feel like progress. I don't need to prove they were wrong. I just need to live like I'm right where I belong. Before bed, I open the window and let the night air drift in. It smells faintly of cinnamon and rain. That's when I realize the truth. I wish I'd known years ago. Freedom isn't loud. It doesn't always arrive with applause. Sometimes it's just the sound of your own keys in a lock that no one else has copied. I close the window, take one last sip of tea, and smile.